Hello everyone, Erin here. Thank you for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here. I have another scrapbook layout for you featuring the Now and Forever collection from Close to My Heart. If you caught Wednesday's video, I shared a single page layout with this paper pack, and we're going to do another one today, but it's going to be a double page layout. Now this is a collaboration video with my friend Melanie from over at Mel Stamp and Gallery. We're both working with the Now and Forever paper pack as well as a sketch, and it's always fun to see different takes on a sketch. We're working from the Make It From Your Heart book, and these are really great idea books. I have a couple volumes in here. They don't come in this. This is a 6x8 photo album, and they fit perfectly. So I like to store them in these photo albums. But this is, I have volume 3 and volume 5 in here because those are my favorite here. The sketch we're using is this one here. Let me just pop this out so you can get a better look at it. What's great about the Make It From Your Heart books is they give you the artwork inspiration. So you can see I have the double page layout here, and they give you two different takes on that with different colors. This one's more of a summertime layout. This one is obviously a winter layout. Now you can switch these up and really customize them, but they do give you the sketches to create these projects exactly. So it really takes the guesswork out of it. If it's like following a recipe, it's cookbook, scrapbooking, you cannot go wrong. So both Melanie and I are working on this sketch, so it'll be fun to see our different takes on, what we come up with. So I have this, and I'm going to set this off to the side here. I'm going to bring in both of my Versamats because we're working on a double page layout. And what's fun about the sketches is it doesn't have to be a double page. You could make the left or the right side if you maybe only had 3 photos. This is a great sketch all on its own. So, they really are, as I said earlier, very, very flexible and customizable. I'm going to use White Daisy cardstock for my base on this layout. So you could choose whatever color cardstock or even pattern paper if you wanted to go that route. So I'm just putting a glue dot in opposite corners, and that's going to help hold this in place so my paper's not moving around on my mat. And then I just roll those up and peel them right off my mat when I'm done. You'll notice on the example layout, they have 3 photos over on the left side and 1 photo here. You could easily adapt this to be 2 photos or even a larger photo. So 4 photos total. I have a lot more than that, but here are 4 of my favorite photos. I'm actually documenting my mom and dad's wedding pictures. I'm really excited to be pulling these out, and I interviewed my mom and got the whole story of how they met, and I had heard bits and pieces of it, but there were things that I never knew during this interview process that came out, little details that I was just kind of really happy to know. So she gave me the original photos to photocopy. They've just been in storage. So they have this very almost kind of sepia look to them, and they're square photos, which is fine. I love square photos. And I don't know if the color was distorted over the years or if this is the way the photographer took them. Some of the pictures are even damaged, if you can see that there. So I scanned them into my, onto a drive and uploaded them to my computer, and I printed them out. I changed the color just a little bit. I faded the color out. I tried black and white, and it just wasn't quite right. So I went back to the original color and then just faded it. So they have still that kind of sepia brownish feel to them. But these were my favorites, but I am going to be adding more in flip flaps. And again, I'm just really excited to be documenting these and recording their story. I am going to be following the sketch pretty closely, but I'll change it up and put my own creative spin on it, of course. So I have cut this lace paper for the 2 columns going up the left and right hand side. And I followed the measurements on those, and then you can see they have the 3 across the center. So I want to mat mine on Seabrook cardstock. So here is my piece of Seabrook cardstock, and then that will house 3 photos. So we've got showing off the wedding ring and then just leaving the church or walking out of the church after the ceremony and then cutting their wedding cake. So those were, these are 3 big points of the wedding. And there weren't really good pictures of her actually at the altar or of them at the altar. So otherwise I would have selected one of those. And then this is my grandma and my mom. I love it. Look at her hat. It's cool. This is cool. I'm excited about this. So that's going to be a photo over here, but I think I'm going to add 2 photos. So we're going to wait on that and see, I might adapt that. You can see they have the title right underneath the picture here. This word timeless is from the coordinating sticker sheet. So I thought that would be a great title, and it's big and bold, much like the title is here. So that is going to work perfectly. Now they have several bits of layered paper. Here's where I kind of went rogue. I didn't follow the measurements exactly, but I'm going to layer paper underneath to get that layered look. And rather than cut one big piece, which is what they had, I cut 2 strips just to save that paper. So this is the ledger paper here. And then the other side is like that old time advertisement, but we're going to go with the ledger paper and we're going to make it look like that's one seamless piece. And then this title will just kind of sit under the photos on that paper. Close to My Heart just did a layout on the Close to My Heart YouTube channel. I'm going to leave that listed in the description box below because I love what she did with her layout. They took toffee, which is a color in this paper pack, and they kind of distressed the edges to give it that vintage feel even more. It's like an aged look. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit scared to do this, but I think we'll try it on the White Daisy cardstock first. And they did quite a bit of distressing. I'm just going to do a tiny bit. I just slid all of my papers and photos over to the side, and I'm going to bring in my all-purpose mat. Anytime I'm doing ink blending, I like to work on this. It just protects my desk and the ink wipes up really nicely. So I'm going to lay that down and then place my piece of cardstock here. I'm going to use a blending brush because this puts the color on nice and soft. And again, I don't want a big, bold, intense color. I just want a hint of it. So let's go ahead and see how that looks. It's just cardstock, and if I don't like it, I can bring in another piece or flip it over and use the other side, right? I was glad I decided to go with the more sepia tone photos, and I see it's hard to kind of see that in the video, but they are definitely a brown tone, and now the toffee distressing is going to complement those photos even more so than if I had gone with black and white. It still totally would have worked with black and white, but I think that the sepia tone looks even a little bit more put together. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I just want it to look aged and kind of worn. So I'm going around the edge, kind of uneven. I went ahead and did both of those sides as well as all of these strips of paper. So that lace paper does have a direction. I had it upside down earlier, so make sure you have them both going the same direction. We'll get everything dry fit back into place, and then we can bring our photos in. And those are 3x4 photos. And then I'm going to, on the other side, I made it to accommodate 2 photos rather than 1. So I want to mirror that ledger paper over here. So I cut a piece, and then as you can see, they have a strip going all the way across. I had a couple scraps. I just cut this in half, and that is going to fit. It is almost 2 inches long, not quite. Or 2 inches wide, I should say. And I do have this piece as well. So I'm just checking to see if I like it. If I do, I will cut out the portion that's hidden behind the other pattern papers. Let's see if this looks good. This is one of the zip strips. It's the branding strip off of one of the pattern papers. So we just want a little horizontal image here, and I do like that. Now we have all of our bits and pieces. Some of these are stamped. This one I fussy cut from the paper, and you can see there it's got a flat edge because it was the edge of the paper, but I can camouflage that. And then I also have some stamped flowers from a previous layout. So that's this flower image here. You can layer it to get 2 different colors. And then I have half of a doily. That was from this layout. If you didn't catch this layout, this was Wednesday's video, and this was the other half of that piece. So I just kind of threw it in with the paper pack, thinking I might use it on this layout. Let me grab this sketch. You can see up at the top they have embellishments, down here on the bottom, and then up in the upper right corner, creating that visual triangle. So I'm going to kind of mirror that. This is a fussy cut flower, and then this one, because of that flat edge, I will slide it underneath, and you will never know. Actually, before I get going on these, I'm going to adhere everything down. So I did that off camera, so you didn't have to watch me gluing everything, and now I can start building up my embellishment clusters. There's nothing worse than getting everything dry fit, and then you're like, oh, now I got to take it all apart and adhere the papers. So I try to do that before I get too far into the embellishing process. This large floral cluster is a sticker from the sticker sheet, and then we have these embroidered flowers as well. So these are gorgeous. They're little embroidered floral embellishments. There's some butterflies as well, and they're really, really neat. So I've got this doily. I'm kind of determined to use it. So maybe over here, I think that's going to work. We'll leave that there for now. I have some stamped images left over from the previous project. So I always just tuck those into the envelope. And then I have these stickers with the gold foiling, the pocket watch, and then this frame. I love this frame. I think it's so pretty. So I'm thinking maybe right up here. And then we can kind of layer this little, we need some more of that Seabrook color up top here. That might look good. Frames are fun. You can put journaling in a frame or use it like this. I'm going to cut it in half. That way I'm not wasting it and I can use the other half of maybe the other side. And then we'll just tuck this right back in here. And then I want to wrinkle this up to make it look kind of old and distressed. It's kind of funny because these photos were taken in the early 70s and I was born in the 70s, so they're not that old. So I just like the look anyway. You can actually take current photos and still scrap them with a vintage look, and I think that it's fine and definitely fun to do. I'm focusing on an L-shaped embellishment cluster framing in the side of this photo. I do think that looks nice. I think I'm going to go with that. I love this frame and maybe offset here on the bottom, but I don't know. It's a little bit too matchy-matchy with the other side, so I'm going to save that for another project. Now, if you look here, there's lots of layers, and I think I do need more layers on this side, but neither one of these papers are quite right. They're just not what I'm looking for. Here's a scrap of mulberry. Let's just test the mulberry color. I think that could work. Let me cut a bigger piece. This was a scrap. I'm just going to cut this in half here, and then we'll tuck half of it up top. I technically don't even need that much. I could take a half and cut it in half again, but let's just see. I think that looks good, but it's a little bit kind of flat. Let's rough this up a little bit and add some distressing. I'm sanding this to bring out the white core cardstock and just give that a distressed look to it, add a little texture. That's okay, but it's still not enough. What about an embossing folder? I'm looking for something a little bit lacy. I think this one's going to work. Embossing folders are really fun to use on your scrapbook layouts. They go way beyond card making. So I'm going to take these two pieces and emboss them with this kind of lacy pattern. After you emboss it, it's really fun to then sand those raised points because it kind of brings out that pattern, having that white core in the cardstock. It almost looks like the lace pattern paper a little bit. I'm going to tear this and roll it over to look even more distressed. Then we'll slide that under and then repeat the same thing with this piece down here. This is a great idea for taking an ordinary piece of cardstock and really stepping it up. Now it almost looks like this textured, well, it is a textured patterned paper. I'm tearing this one on the opposite side to create a diagonal line just to kind of draw your eye across. And yeah, I really like that. I think that made a big difference. I want to add a little bit of foam tape to just a few of the embellishments to give it a little depth here. So this is just paper because I fussy cut that from the pattern paper. So I really want to make sure that most of the area is covered so it doesn't kind of get distorted in the album. I'm feeling like I need to repeat the, embossed cardstock on this side. I don't know. Let's try it. I'm going to have to move my frame. And then maybe if we just tuck it down so not quite as much is showing. I really have my heart set on using this frame. But I don't know. I like it. I'm going to go with it. I think it looks good. I want to bring in a little bit more of the gold foiled accents. This is a word sticker. It says better together. So I'll layer that right here. And as far as the journaling goes, I typed that up on my printer and printed it out on cardstock because I had a whole lot to say. These are both 3x4 size cards, and I'm going to adhere this one to the back of this photo, and then the other one, so this will be inside a flip flap, and the other one will be adhered down to the layout. I wanted to document the story of how they first met, how my dad proposed, and then, of course, all the details of their wedding. My mom is a nurse, so she was a student nurse at the time, and my dad is a respiratory therapist, so they actually met at the hospital. And then he proposed in Tahoe at Standing Over Emerald Bay, which I never knew. I never heard that part of the story, so that was really cool. She also shared her wedding colors were lavender and yellow, which I knew that, but I didn't know that they were inspired by the wildflowers. They lived in Nevada at the time, so in the desert, and there were a ton of rains, really unusual amount of rainfall that year, and the wildflowers were gorgeous, and they were lavender and yellow, so that's where she got her wedding colors. Now, this little stamp here, this airmail stamp, I saw Karen from Close to My Heart use this on her heritage layout that she created, and I really want to recreate that. I'm flipping over my verse mat because I'm going to stamp right on my layout. Technically, I wish I had done this earlier, but it was an afterthought. So we're going to add it now. I'm going to use some masking tape here because I don't want it to go... I would have gone underneath my photo, but it's too late. Those are already adhered down. So I'm not pressing it to the photo. I'm only pressing this tape to the cardstock bottom. And then we're going to ink that up in the mink ink and then stamp this right here. There's lots of layers. There's the cardstock and then the photo. So it's not perfect, but that just adds to the distressed look of the stamping, and I'm totally fine with that. This paper collection completely inspired me to finally document these photos, and I'm so thankful. My mom is not a scrapbooker, but this is a story I definitely wanted to record. So that way my kids and their kids and so on can look back and know what their great-grandparents or the details of how they met and their wedding and all of that story that's part of their history. Don't forget to head on over to Melanie's channel to see her take on the sketch and how she used this paper collection. You can find a link to her channel in the description box below, along with everything I used to create today's layout. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for doing that. And here is another video I think you might enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.